You're ready. Yeah, we're here.
There's a good possibility that I'm going to be eating what's left of my lunch. So
no worries. Shove it
my
in.
apologies.
Ruben and I do many hangouts with full mouths. It's okay.
I figure if the girl from Hawaii can be sitting in her pool, I can be eating lunch.
Chris was the one that I use, Ruben, is when Carolyn Quindicka was sitting in her swimming pool in Hawaii doing a hangout. Oh. Did you ever see that one?
I don't know that I saw.
Yep. She was literally like poolside, like this, and she in the background, and it was, I don't know, it was February or something when it was brutal in the rest of the world. She was sitting there in her pool.
Yep, a little bit of jealousy.
Just to rub it in.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just jump in, I guess, and see what we can do.
You're jumping right after the intro.
All right.
Welcome
everybody.
Yep. There you go.
Welcome everybody. Before we begin, we got some housekeeping things on the board here behind me. If you would please sign in. Instructions are there on the board. Phone number to text. The hashtag is actually the workshop code, so make sure you specifically get that hashtag correct. And then you should get a response immediately saying that you've signed in. This is going to allow you access to a whole variety of resources, which we're going to talk about at the end of the workshop. Also, while you're doing that, if you would, we've got signs up around the room. Okay, 6 to 10 years, 0 to 5 years of coaching experience, 10 plus years. If you would, just find the area in the room and grab a seat. And once you get logged in, we'll get started. All right, thumbs up. Everybody logged in. Good deal. Yep. Good deal. All right, now that you guys are all comfortable, I'm going to ask you to move again. What I'd like you to do is see if you can find somebody in both of the other groups. So we've got 0 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, 10 plus years. If you would, just mix and mingle and find guys in the other two groups. While you're doing that, if you would take a second, just introduce yourself and very briefly, this may be a long and involved question for a lot of you, but very briefly, just share your why. Okay, why are you coaching? And why are you getting involved in this or continuing your coaching journey here with us? Mumble. Mm-hmm. Discuss. All right. Hopefully you had a chance. We're going to try and keep this as interactive a workshop as possible. So hopefully you're going to get a chance to know the people around you a little bit better as we go through what we call, whoops, sorry. Did I cut you off?
Nope,
right.
You're good.
All right. What we call our double goal coaching workshop. Before we begin, the young lady introduced me beautifully. Thank you very much. But just a little bit more about me, besides just what's on my resume. My why is actually relatively simple. I got the coaching bug at a very young age. I can remember as a high school student, high school player, helping out the 3rd and 4th grade teams in our local community center. And the coaching hook, so to speak, really sunk in immediately. I have always seen this for me as a vocation. It's not just something that I do. It's a real passion of mine. Teaching in the classroom, teaching on the court, I see are very similar traits. And it's something that I've really invested the last 26 years of my life in. So it's certainly much more than just an occupation. It's a tremendous calling. It's a tremendous amount of responsibility, but the opportunity to see young people grow because of some of your tutelage or because some of the seeds you've planted is just an amazing journey to go on. And I certainly hope you find it similar to what I do. Okay, who is PCA? Well, the gentleman up behind me, Jim Thompson, formed PCA back in 1998 at Stanford University after observing some interesting, I think, behavior at some of his kids' youth sports games. I believe his baseball game in particular. I would strongly recommend getting online and getting to check out his TED Talk. He does a fantastic job of talking about what a development zone is, how he developed these ideas, how he's partnered with so many different people from around the sporting world to really come up with this vision of what youth sports should be all about. And some of those people, whoops, sorry, I did it again. There we go. Some of those people on the board behind me, we have over 200 people involved in our national advisory board, and they are all high-level athletes, coaches, sports psychologists, the who's who of the sports world. And one of the things I find fascinating is that if you take a look up here at just these few examples, you'll notice that they're all extremely intense competitors. So when we talk about positive coaching, we're certainly not talking about pie in the sky, all sunshine and roses. We are talking about competition. We are talking about the competitive realm and the ability to maximize that as a teaching environment. But we can talk about Mr. Thompson. We can talk about these wonderful coaches and college professors and players behind me. But at the end of the day, the Positive Coaching Alliance really is you. You guys are the tip of the spear. You guys are the ones out providing these kids with a phenomenal opportunity to learn in a safe environment. And we really want you to understand the responsibility that you've taken on by doing this. Positive Coaching Alliance has touched, these are just some annual statistics, thousands and thousands of kids and coaches year round. And it really is you guys that are taking this and running with it and making it your own and really turning it into something that can be such a positive tool for your community, where it's not just participating in sports, but it's really investing in sports and it's using it in all the developmental capacities that it can be. All right. Really want you guys at the end of all of this to understand the impact that our role as coaches can have on young people. Phenomenal quote from Herm Edwards: "When the book of your life is written, will it say that you made a difference?" And for me, at least, to see that difference, to see the growth that kids can go through in a year, in a season, is absolutely the most rewarding thing. We can talk about trophies all the time. We can talk about championships. We can talk about hanging banners in a gym. At the end of the day, the opportunity to plant a seed in a living trophy is something that just goes beyond words. It's very difficult to explain unless you've really been involved in it. Excuse me. But we want you to understand your impact. The Reverend Billy Graham said that a coach will impact more people in 1 year than an average person will in an entire lifetime. And we can use that impact. We can use those opportunities as teachable moments, okay? Or at the same time, we can, unfortunately, cause some damage if we're not very careful on how we choose our words. So let's jump into the interactive part of things. Okay, what makes a great youth sports experience? Okay, talk amongst your group there. Okay, you've got a variety of different levels of experience. Maybe jot down a few ideas on a notebook if you have some, and see what you guys come up with. Mingle, mingle, mingle.
Mm-hmm.
I give them about a minute or so, 2 minutes to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody want to volunteer?
I will. I'll talk for our group.
Go ahead, Ms. Kelly.
Our group talked about, we all kind of agreed that fun is probably the number one. We want to make sure that the kids are enjoying what they're doing.
Yep.
So we said fun. We said learning the sport is really important. Mm-hmm. And we also said when they really feel friends, they have friends on the team that are going to support mm-hmm. them, and they actually like the people that they're playing with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Terrific. Ruben, what did your group talk about?
Yeah, we talked about how we agreed it's got to be fun, and that part of that fun is that you get to pretend to be, you get to pretend to be Steph Curry, you get to pretend to be Peyton Manning, you get to put on a uniform, you get to stand in a huddle just like those guys do. You get to compete, you get to try mm-hmm. to win. Mm-hmm. So just that I mean, so many things that go into that experience, I guess. Were some
right.
things we talked
right.
about. Yeah.
I think the fascinating thing is we tend to, for some reason, as the competitive environment starts to increase, as the kids get older as athletes, we tend to take that word fun and we think it's some sort of negative connotation to it. We want to have fun. Mm-hmm. Fun can mean a whole lot of different things. And as you progress as a coach, you're going to recognize the developmental needs of your players and be able to address what fun is. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to enjoy the experiences that they're going through. That joy could come from the intense competition, the intense practice that you've just had, and the way that you've really helped kids get better over the course of a 2-hour practice. Or it could just come from, having a phenomenal day with a bunch of 12-year-olds playing the sport that they love. So it's important to keep that aspect front and center, I think, in our minds as coaches, because we tend to get wrapped up, I think, especially as the kids get older, we tend to get wrapped up in this idea of winning is fun. And we lose, just that innate joy that we all have in playing these sports that we love so much. And it's extremely important, I think, to keep that front and center. So let's move on. All right. A meaningful athletic experience, okay, as defined by the PCAs, you're feeling connected to yourself, to your teammates, to your coaches. I think one of the first things my mentor taught me as I moved out to get my first head coaching job was that it's not about the X's and O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. And there's an old coaching adage that goes something like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I think it's extremely important for us to remember that we're not coaching sports. We're coaching people. We're in the people development business. Even as a coach of, a second grade team, you can use these teachable moments to really impact kids and to provide them with a sense of connection to each other. That can be very special, and it can be a memory that they carry with them for a long time. All right. Believing that they can improve here. This is the hook that kind of that kind of got me into coaching. Is I've always been a basketball nerd. I absolutely love talking basketball, the X's and O's, the intricacies of team defense and team offense. Kids at the end of the day want to know that their ceiling is much higher than what they think at that moment. And I think one of the gifts that we can give them is this idea that, hey, we see where you are, but we also see where you could be. And we're going to show you what that vision looks like, and we're going to show you the steps to get there. And then when you reach that plateau, we're going to push you even further, and we're going to give you another vision of what you could be. And if we're able to instill that sense of personal ownership of their growth, that's a tool that's going to be able to take them to even higher heights off the court or off the playing surfaces. All right. Last but not least, I love this feeling a sense of pride because you've done things with integrity. I call this playing the right way. We all know that there are coaches out there. They're going to cut corners. They're going to bend the rules. They're going to teach things that may not be exactly ethical. At the end of the day, the sport of basketball, which I intensely love, was created as a teaching tool. And that's what we need to keep first and foremost in our minds. We want to teach kids the right way. And we want to invest in kids and let them know that the right way is also the long-term successful way. That it's not just something that feels good at the moment, but it's something that allows them to grow and then allows us to put W's on the scoreboard. And we'll talk about that connection a little bit later on in the workshop. All right. If your players get all these three things, I love this. What do you think will happen? Okay, so they feel this connection, they have this idea that they can improve, and they have this integrity, this sense of playing the right way. Hey, what is it? Talk amongst yourselves a little bit. Hey, what is it that you guys think they're going to get out of all of this? Mumble, mumble, mumble. Kelly, what'd your group talk about?
We just said that they're going to get an amazing experience in high school. I'm thinking high school right now, but like they're just going to, it's just going to improve their experience all around because they're going to have friends. They're going to have a reason to be there. They're going to feel good about themselves, and they're probably going to come back year after year and see sports as as what you said, like a way to develop rather than just something I have to do.
Right. Exactly. Because somebody told me, hey, I'm tall, so go play basketball.
Right.
Ruben, what'd your group talk about?
Yeah. We think a lot of good things will happen. We think there'll be a closer knit team. We think that the chemistry will be better. We think they'll play better. Mm-hmm. They'll handle pressure better, and ultimately they'll probably actually win more games.
Exactly, which I think, at least at the high school level for us, is certainly one of our goals every year. We want to try and win as many games as possible. But without these three things, I think these three things really go a long way to laying a foundation for tremendous individual improvement over the course of a season, and also tremendous team growth over the course of the season, because you end up. It's funny how as people start to invest more in themselves, they understand that now I can go out and serve others. So your team, as they start to feel more connected with each other, they're going to sacrifice for each other more. They're going to put in those extra reps. And it's a tremendous sense of self-satisfaction for me as a coach to see that growth over the course of a season. And we'll touch on that as well, once again. Oops, let's see. Oh. Sorry. All right. Okay. Back it up. All right. If we all agree, and I think we do, that building these bonds of friendship, building these relationships, providing kids with learning environments, if we agree that all of those things are true, which I think we do, right? All right. Then why are 70% of kids dropping out of youth sports by the time they're 13? What do you guys think? What are some reasons? And you can just shout these out. We'll just brainstorm as a group. Hey, what do you guys think?
I think they're just not, they're puberty.
Yeah,
so you said puberty?
yeah, puberty, life. They get interested in different things. You know, yeah.
Yep. I think that's one of the things I think every time I see this, I'm like, well, somebody told them it's time to do something else. How many of us really get to leave the sports world on our own terms? Somebody tells us, hey, it's time to move on to do something else. You're not good enough to reach this level, or you've got an injury and you haven't recovered fully, or, it's always somebody else's choice to leave the sports world. Okay? But I think a lot of these kids, besides just reaching a stage in their development where things have become a lot more selective, I do think there are a lot of cultural aspects to this as well. Do you guys have any ideas on why they might be leaving in such large numbers?
I had an experience yesterday. I ran into 4 girls that I coached when they were on the 6th grade team, and they're now freshmen in high school. And I'm actually coincidentally coaching the high school team. And I said to them, hey, why aren't you guys playing this year? Like, what's going on? Why? And they said, it's just too serious at the high school. They said, I'm not good enough to play at the high school. It's just too serious. And I don't want to be that serious about it.
Right.
And I was like, oh, like that was just, it was a bummer because they were good athletes. Right. And I thought that it has this cultural reputation that once you get to high school, it's so serious that they can't have fun anymore.
Yep. So I think it is important for kids to understand the levels of expectation. Okay? And that is part of the evaluation process that we use, to determine whether or not kids are going to be a part of the program at the next level. Are they invested? Are they really going to compete at the level that we think we need to in order to be successful at the high school level? So certainly that's a conversation that can be had and should be had, I think, in a really productive and positive way. Because I think that's another learning opportunity for kids to understand that it's okay to reach a point where you're like, okay, I don't want to invest that much. I want to invest in my band or my friends or my budding business or my STEM stuff or whatever it might be. So I do think that's an excellent point as well. But we have to admit that despite all the reporting from Sports Illustrated and all the different workshops that you may have been to, there's a tremendous amount of negativity in youth sports today. And I think, unfortunately, at least in my view, in the basketball community here in the Washington, D.C. area, I think is getting worse. So what are some of those negative aspects that we really need to address in a purposeful way?
I think just the disrespect going both ways. Players to coaches, coaches to officials, parents to coaches, parents to officials. There's just this circle of disrespect that nobody's stopping.
Right. That's a great point.
Yeah, I would say angry adults all over the place.
Yeah, that's a great
angry parents angry with officials, coaches angry with parents, and coaches angry with players, and sometimes teammates angry with each other.
Right.
But the anger of the adults would be primary for me.
Right. It's certainly something that's going to be extremely difficult to address. But I think the more positive examples we have out there, which is why I'm so glad to see all of you here, is that the more positive examples we have, the more opportunities we have to talk to those parents, to say, hey, listen, you can't berate the officials. They're trying their best. They're not cheating Johnny out of a scholarship. He's only 7. So, just, and I think this race to nowhere that we've created, this attitude that, if he doesn't get a scholarship at the end of all this, then all of the money I've invested has been a waste. The applying of adult values. I love seeing my son, who's very fully aware of the score at the end of his 2nd grade basketball game, will whine and complain for about 30 seconds. And then he and his buddies are off in the corner having pretzels. They're fully aware of the score and they want to win and they want to compete, but that score doesn't define their experience. They draw so much just naturally out of the sports experience. If we could eliminate the adult levels of expectations, I think we could go a long way towards really changing our overall culture and using it as more of a developmental zone. So Dr. Barbara Fredrickson is a psychologist at the University of North Carolina. She's actually a member of our National Advisory Board. And she has a great quote. There's a perception out there that the best way to get things out of people is through negative reinforcement rather than through positive. Okay? Now, that may work, and we're going to touch on this a little bit later. That may work in a very short-term, immediate sense. But we know that over the long term, a positive growth mindset is really going to maximize a kid's experience and even our experiences in a profession. You think about as a teacher, as as a college professor, you want that positive reinforcement. You want a growth environment where you feel you're constantly being challenged to move ahead. And we want to try and provide that for our kids. So negativity, actually, these are two more sports psychologists on our national advisory panel. Actually, Dr. Ravisa just recently passed away. But it's study after study after study has proven that there are extremely negative and detrimental effects to all of this negativity that we see out there. Negative reactions, negative criticism, if you will. It really increases anxiety. It decreases brain activity. It really limits people's abilities to react to things in a constructive way. So, and it actually kind of decreases our functions on the basketball court or on the playing surfaces. So regardless, and it's amazing to me that even with all of this body of research, we still continue to hold on to that old militaristic coaching model that we had back in the 1950s. So hopefully we're going to be able to change that. Okay. So what does positive coaching mean to you? I went too fast, but what does positive coaching mean to you? Don't look at the board.
Encouragement.
Encouragement.
I think coaches that care about the players, as you said, instead of the sport, they care more about the players.
Exactly. They're using the sport merely as a platform to help kids grow versus going out there and filling up their resume for the Duke job.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What we want to try and do then, okay, positive coaching for me at least, is creating this growth mindset in people, as Carol Dweck pointed out in her book Mindset. This idea that we can grow through problems, we can grow through obstacles, that we do have it within our control to improve our performance. And we want to create this atmosphere around our programs as much as we possibly can, that we can use these things as beneficial experiences for the parents, the players, the coaches, the officials, and that we can really put ourselves forward as an example of how to properly create this growth mindset. Okay. So the power of positive, as we mentioned earlier, okay, this is, I think, is extremely important and touches really on the heart and soul of why I coach. Okay, you want to try and create this environment that will help kids well beyond the playing surfaces. I want kids to internalize the lessons that they are learning, to take into the classroom, to take into the communities, to take into the camps, and be role models for the younger players coming up. We see that all the time in our high school programs. Younger players coming, middle school players coming to watch us play and wanting the kids' autographs. They're looking up to these players as role models, and we want them to be able to take all the lessons that we're teaching them and be able to carry that with them for as long as they need it. Okay. So our vision, okay, at PCA here is to create this environment using, this is what I think is very timely and important current sports psychology research. So this is not something that was, hey, let's make everybody feel great about ourselves and let's give everybody a participation medal, excuse me. This is something that actually is on the cutting edge of what coaching and teaching really is, by using all the sports psychology research, by tapping into all these wonderful coaches that are on our advisory board. And we really want to try and create a situation where we all act as double goal coaches. Okay, so that this idea, I actually don't even see it as double goal, to be honest with you. I see it as the goal, that we're creating this situation where we can change the scoreboard, but we can also change lives. And we can also invest in people, and we can also create situations where they're learning so many more valuable things that are going to take them well beyond the playing surface. So with that in mind, this is our coaching model here at the PCA, and this is what we're going to be taking a look at over the next hour or so. Okay, so why don't we take a break, and we'll jump right into these tools and see what we can learn.
All right. Well done.
Thank you.
Did you feel like you were like speeding up at the end a little bit?
I was a little bit because I forgot to start my timer.
You were at 23 minutes. Not bad at all. That's perfect. All right. That's fine.
All right.
Anything within the 20 to 25 is good. If you're starting to go 40, that's when we take out the hook. But,
like the last 10 slides.
Yeah. No, Chris, I definitely saw an improvement. And the other thing too is, you referenced that this is just the introduction. which I think is good because it gets me thinking like, okay, what's next? Like when you said, we're going to get to that later. We're going to talk about that later.
Right.
That piques interest in me. So rather than having, last time I think you were explaining a little bit of it too much, and I think it's good. The only thing that I put down a lot. Again, I just love your style. I love that you walk the walk, you talk the talk. It's like it's all just it's coming out of you, and I know that you've got so much that you want to say. The way that you phrase things, it's just really good. There's a lot of brand new coaches that are going to be in your room, and they're going to be taking notes like crazy because they're going to be like, wow, I never thought about coaching the kids, not coaching the sport, because they're thinking of the X's and O's, and they're not thinking, they're looking at you who's coached for 26 years and you're still doing it. And they might be thinking, oh, like this coaching job is not really what I want to be doing right now. But then if they see somebody like you who's been doing it as a vocation for 26 years, they can say, wow, you know what? There is more power to this. So I just liked the whole vibe that you give off. I think is fantastic.
I'll talk them out of it afterwards.
Yeah. And this is my last year. I'm done. The only two suggestions that I have just on the intro is I'd love to hear, and how you work that in will be clever because, again, you don't want to take up time, but I would love to hear some type of a personal story about you. Like, we know you're coaching, we know you've been coaching, we know this is your vocation, but something that would draw me in to say, you know what, when you get a player that, comes from whatever the story is, just some type of a way to connect us to you and your experience. Like, because I might be sitting here going, why did you do this for 26 years? Give me a kid, give me a player, give me something, that I can sit here and go,
if you figure that out, let me know.
Yeah,
we'll
exactly. That would be my only, just to be I think at one point in the introduction to do something specific is really helpful, because I think the introduction can be sort of this over umbrella of like, here's the theory, here's why, this is why it's great, this is where we want you to, and that's what we want to do. But for example, you said something about we were talking about why sports are meaningful, kids knowing they can improve and connection. You said something about, personal growth is so important, and seeing a kid, like you had a great seeing a kid grow from the beginning of the season to the end. Like how do you see that? What do you see? And is it something specific, like a kid that couldn't shoot a 3-pointer at the end of the season can, or is it a kid that was so nervous and shy and afraid, and at the end of the season, he was calling plays and had a lot of confidence, So I think sometimes we get overwhelmed with the abstract theory and forget that the coaches want concrete. They just want one example of a way that concretely, how do I relate to this? Like, what's he talking about? And sometimes I forget that. Yeah, you forget when you've been coaching for so long that, like, when you were a first-year coach, you were trying to grab at anything you could to help you.
Right. That's funny.
So
when I was
those would really be my only two.
All right. When I was studying for my master's degree, Dr. Gould would always put out these theories, and I was the how does that apply thing. How does that apply to me? How can I use this on the court? How can I help the players get better? I was always that guy who was like, all right.
And this is the same thing. I mean, we're coaching coaches. So you're going to have coaches. We want your coaches to run out of your workshop and hit the court and say, wow, now I've got all this stuff. I can't wait to use it. Not walk out and go, well, that was good in theory, but I'm not really sure what to do with it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
So I like the way you switch some of the slides around. I think sometimes we got to be careful about adding more words to slides, because I think the slides have a lot of words on them already. But I thought the order was great. Did you intentionally take out the Herm Edwards video?
Oh, I just skipped over it. I have that in there later.
Maybe you liked Herm.
No, I love Herm.
Yeah, I figured you did. Okay, that's my suggestion.
Game. Who doesn't love that?
I know, exactly. Go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah, I like the PowerPoint edits and the flow that you created that works particularly well for you and feels comfortable to you. I thought that was all great. I thought that you really achieved your goal of getting through this opening section in less time. Really, you got through it, and it was 23 minutes, whereas last time you didn't, and so I think you definitely accomplished that. I commend you for that. I like the way that when you put us into groups 0 to 5 years, and then when you mixed them, you took the feedback that you got last time, which is you added in a discussion element to that. okay, in your groups, talk about your why. And then I was wondering what you were going to do with that. And sure enough, you followed up with, okay, here, I want to tell you about my why, you know?
Right.
And so I thought the flow was really good. I will say that, you know, sometimes you're going to be in front of coaches who have made a career out of this like you, or it's been a part of their career in life. And sometimes you're going to be in front of coaches who, you know what, I'm only doing this because the community needs a coach. And, you know, so they're not doing it as a calling. And
I was voluntold too.
Yeah, and so I do think we want to be careful about not blowing them away and saying, you know, them going, oh my God, what did I get myself into? You know, I'm just trying to run some practices, you know, but I'm not trying to. So I think you sometimes got to be careful, depending on who you're in front of, how strongly you come across with that piece.
Yeah, I actually thought I was getting a little too preachy as I was going along.
Maybe. Okay, and then as far as overall flow, I thought your pace, I definitely noticed a crisp clip early. And I go, wow, Chris really is changed the pace of this quite a bit from last time.
Right.
When you got to the slide of connected, improve, integrity, the pace changed again. And there was much more detail from that point forward.
Okay.
And I did wonder from that point forward, if some of the detail that you were taking us through, if maybe that could be, that you could hold off on that. It's, you know, it's a possibility.
Okay.
And then, hey, Chris, if you don't agree with the concept of double goal coach, keep it to yourself and don't tell the participants. Because when you say, I actually don't see it as double goal coach or double goal, I actually don't see it as double goal. It creates a, wait a minute, that's what the whole workshop's about.
Right.
You know, so I think there's a different way to phrase that, or maybe you don't even bother saying it. You know, you know, the last thing we want to do is, as the trainer, reduce the credibility of the concept. Right. I'm going to tell you about a mistake ritual, and it's done to do this, this, and this. But you know what? I actually never do it. Okay. Well, no, that's, you know. So I think you know what I mean by that, huh?
It depends on the call.
Okay. You know, but let me just finish.
That's what I wanted to try and get everybody, and maybe this is something to address at the end of something after everybody's seen all the tools, is that this idea that, you know, double goals, they really aren't separate. When you merge those things, they're so intimately intertwined with one another. It's hard to really maximize a team's talents without building all these relationships and doing all these other things. And that could be something I think that might be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, everybody has a different way of saying that. Okay, slightly different way of saying it. So that I'm with you 100% on, Chris.
Right.
Sometimes the words I use, the beauty of double goal coaching is that while you're working at one goal, you're working at the other. The two.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And I always just like to say, like, as that Venn diagram comes together. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ruben. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say what I don't say is I actually don't think of it as double goal. I don't say that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right.
And I think I make one comment sometimes about how they do come together, and the most successful, impactful coaches will treat them as one goal or something like that. Like when we look at them as two separate goals as coaching, that's where the problems do come in.
Right.
But it's not saying they're one goal. It's saying when these are at opposition with each other, when somebody chooses winning over life lessons or is doing all life lessons and not thinking about winning at all, that's when there's a problem.
Yeah, so, that's a great point. Yeah, I like that.
Another way of saying what Kelly just said is it's not one or the other.
They're not mutually exclusive.
It's both.
It really is. Yeah,
it's both at the same time. And but it's okay.
Terrific. I think
Yes.
Exactly.
I didn't want to. That's exactly the phrase that came to mind, but I didn't want to say it.
The horse is dead. Let it go.
So I think I'm being kicked out of my room here. So,
okay. Oh, no worries. So Chris, I have you down for Wednesday, 2:45, and I'd love that to be your final demo of one of the principles.
Perfect. That'd be great.
Awesome. All right. I'll send you the link to join before that. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly.